Life Til Lager. No Life Til Lager.
Welcome to No Life Til Lager, a show about lager beer, the brewers who make it, and we that drink it. This is a conversation between two people over one pint. My name is Adam Zuniga. I'm a failed master Cicerone. I'm part of the creative team behind the 6 Most Metal Breweries and Beer Like and Das Movie. And my guest today is Agostino Arioli. He is the brewer, the founder, the mother, and the father of Italian Pilsner at Birrificio Italiano, that is located in the province of Como outside Milan. Cheers and welcome, and grazie Agostino. Thank you for joining.
Grazie, Adam. It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you, drinking a beer.
Yes, sir. The pleasure is mine. I hope my Italian is okay. I apologize for any mispronunciation throughout the episode.
Super okay. Super okay.
It is an absolute honor to have you here. This is our first show, maybe not with another country, but with another continent. No Life Til Lager is going abroad for this episode. We are traveling internationally to Italy, and I am supremely grateful for it. So, as we get to where we are going, I think you should know I've been to Italy before, never to Milan, never to Birrificio Italiano, but I'm going to have every reason to come visit after this episode. And, you know, my first impression was that Italy led with wine. I kind of had to make the effort and maybe go out of my way or off the beaten path to find Italian craft beer. But once I did, it was incredibly rewarding. And it led me to places that maybe weren't in the guidebooks, that maybe all the tourists and all the Americans wouldn't necessarily know where and how to go. But it helped shape my experience of Italy, you know, from Rome, kind of south, traveling down the boot and then back up. So beer continues to guide the way, to inspire, to inform. And like I said, next time it will definitely be to Milan, my friend. So thank you again.
You're welcome anytime. And I hope you can do it.
Yes.
Soon.
Yes. So, before we talk about you, before we talk about the brewery, before we talk about Italian craft beer and culture, can you tell me a little bit about the beers in our hand? I am drinking your collaboration with Moonlight Brewing. They are friends as well as No Life Til Lager alums located in Santa Rosa. This is Sola Luna, a Czech-inspired amber lager. I believe it's clocking in at 4.3% alcohol, which I truly appreciate. Small beer with big character. Tell me a little bit about the beer in my hand, and then let's talk about what you're drinking, please.
Okay, honestly, Adam, I'm not that much prepared. Because we brewed that beer the first time 3 years ago, even more, maybe 4 years ago. Yeah. So I'm not sure about the recipe, honestly. But it's our goal. We aim to brew a lager, but slightly dark, or let's better say amber. Hoppy at the same time, so very drinkable, low alcohol, different from what we know is probably not at all perfectly in style. Yeah. But this is something that you can tell us better than me, because I haven't been drinking it since a long time. I don't think it's a special style of beer. We can maybe push it into one, but it's not a typical one. It probably looking to the Czech Republic culture, beer culture, but with something new, something from California and something from Italy, put it together. I think it's very good. Last time it was amazing.
Yeah, I think I've had this beer multiple times. I think it has slightly changed recipes and iterations over the years.
It was darker.
Yes, I see Italian-grown Ericlea Pilsner malt, so an heirloom variety of Pilsner malt, Idaho-grown Saaz hops, and what's described as dreamy, fresh green peppercorn. So, a very exotic beer, a beer of the world. And I am just really curious. The addition of green peppercorns, is that, I mean, is that more ceremonial? Is it a gesture? Is it for sake of painting a picture? Or do you feel like it really imparts something to the beer?
Black peppercorn notes in the hoppy beer, especially when I'm using continental European traditional hops, is something that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
We used to brew a specialty beer for a special festival, Italian festival, that was called Mrs. Pepper, and it was a pale lager, hoppy one, quite hoppy, with a very strong and perceivable touch of black peppercorn, and I think it matched perfectly.
Yeah, yeah.
So I love it. I don't know how much did they add to this edition of the Sulla Luna, but it was supposed to be there.
Yeah, yeah. It really does complement both just the idea as well as the flavor and the finish of the beer. I think if I was drinking it blind, I wouldn't necessarily pick out peppercorns, black, white, green, what have you, but I would know there is something else present. There is something else
Yeah.
worth thinking
Yes.
about and worth talking about, and it's again
This
just a really creative twist.
This is exactly what I love when I'm brewing a beer with such a weird or strange ingredient. I love it to be there, but maybe you cannot distinguish it really well. But
Yeah,
imagine that you take it off the beer would change.
yeah, yeah.
So this is the way I like it.
Well, here is to you, to Brian and Zach at Moonlight. Very well done. And I was just thinking, how am I gonna get a Birrificio Italiano beer here in the States, here in California? Of course, reasonably fresh is best, right? And Moonlight just happened to be canning and releasing this at the same time that we started to talk and plan. So there are no accidents. It was meant to be. So thank you again. Here's to our friends at Moonlight. And before we move forward, can you just tell me more about the beer in your hand, Agostino? What are you drinking?
Yeah, with pleasure. With pleasure, because this is the beer that I'm usually drinking. Is my normal beer, everyday beer during the summertime. Let's see if we can ever. Oh my gosh! No, not easy. It's not easy at all.
Yeah, it's okay if we can't see the label. Thank you. Thanks to the interwebs and whatever your settings
A
are.
bit, a bit of mystery and
Yes,
suspense.
very fitting. You can
No,
just tell us, please.
okay, this beer is, we call it session pills or even summer pills. So it's a lager again. We use not the same yeast strain that we're using for Tipopils, but we're using another one that is slightly different. And it's 4.3 ABV.
Beautiful.
Its name is Delia, Delia. No, IA,
Ah,
sorry. Delia. And it's the name of my former wife
ah.
because because this beer was dedicated to her, and I'm very proud about this beer, and I'm also very proud of being his husband for a while. It was
Yes.
a great time. We're still kind of friends, so everything's okay. But I love the beer because the beer is exactly a little bit like she was, so very surprising because it's looks light and kind of um, yeah, light, but at the end it has a lot of character, and this character comes from well, some different things. I think that, yeah, here you can see it, right?
Yeah, we have it. We have
Okay.
it.
Okay, so the main hoppy character, because it's a hoppy beer, I think it's more hoppy than the Tipopils, comes from the hop that we are using as aroma hop. That in a very unusual way we are using a Polaris. Polaris is a 10 years old hop variety made in Germany. Is not 100% German style, is not 100% American or any other style, but it has a
Interesting.
very big complexity, and it's a kind of a bomb because it's 24% alpha acid content. So it's very strong in bitterness.
So,
But I had it like a gift from my friends up growers from Tettnang, and they gave me a bag of it and said, they told me, what would you do with this hop? And then I tried two different ways. One was a kind of a barley wine, and the other one was a very light Pilsner.
wow.
And this is the very light Pilsner, and I think it worked perfectly. We also use floor malted Pilsner malt,
Uh-huh.
and we are using a kind of a weird mesh profile. So it's a very crazy stuff, and it works.
I
Damn, it
love
works a
I
lot.
love that the beer is a love letter to your former wife and now friend. And it is increasingly, the use of Polaris is interesting, and it's becoming increasingly rare to find beers that really kind of focus and showcase single hops or one hop in particular.
Yeah.
And the fact that you experimented with this, ranging from a session pilsner to I think you said a barley wine, is shows the full scope not only of the hops potential, but of what Birrificio Italiano does and continues to create and experiment with. And then last but
Yeah.
not least, I really appreciate that it's summer outside Milan. It's summer in California. I mean, you would never know it in the Bay Area in July. But we're both drinking summer pilsners at 4.3% alcohol, or session pilsners, meant for drinking during the summer season. I will say Sulla Luna, the beauty of it is I could drink it year round and it would be appropriate. But in any case, to your former wife, am I saying this correctly? Was it Delia?
Delia. Yes, perfect.
Delia.
Delia.
To our friends at Moonlight and to you, Agostino, for both beers in both our hands, thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit more about you, life before beer, if there was such a thing, because we'll, of course, get to the brewery. And I know it's 30 years running now, and I'm wishing you a very happy anniversary. But tell me about life before beer, if there was such a thing. I would just be curious to know about any other jobs you've had, and ultimately how you turned this passion into a profession, into Birrificio Italiano. Tell us about you, my friend, your past, before we move into the present and the future.
Okay, I'll try to condense this very long story in not too many, not too much long time. But by the way,
Whatever you want to share.
it didn't start 30 years ago. It started when I was 15 years old. That means 45 years ago, because I'm 60 now. So it started going around with friends, visiting different pubs and birrerie, like we used to say at that time, where different kind of beers were available. So at that time, the Italian production was focused almost only on kind of industrial lagers, okay?
Mhm.
But somewhere it was still possible to find different kind of beers. My favorite at that time was Courage Best Bitter from England, for example.
Nice.
But we were also looking for Chimay in the bottle. We were looking for Weizen style beers because they were kind of something new, very interesting. So we were going around and drinking and discussing about the beers, not just drinking,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we were already arguing about which one is the best. I prefer this one, you prefer that one. No, 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 my favorite is the best one, and so on. I mean, you can imagine, of course. Then when I was 20 years old in 1985, I was studying at the University of Milano, agriculture, but I was a very, very lazy student, I'll be honest, very lazy, because I didn't have any goal. I mean, I was in love about agriculture and stuff, but in a romantic way, not really practical way, just okay, agriculture and the countryside, I love it, and I
Sure.
still love it, of course. But I had
Yes.
no goal in my life. But I found a booklet on a bank on a market, in a book market. It was about how to brew your own beer at home. It was the very first book about home brewing in Italy
Ah,
in 1985. So I bought that book and I started to homebrew the first time and the second time. I was malting some barley from Tuscany, some organic barley from Tuscany in my mother's kitchen.
amazing.
But she is a very patient woman, so no problem at all. But the problem was the quality of my malt. That was ugly.
Ah,
I mean, really, really bad. And then I was using bread yeast. No, doesn't work. And then very stale and old hops found in a kind of a herbal tea shop, but it was stinking. It was very bad.
yes.
So I dumped, me and my friend Mario, who was brewing with me. We dumped two attempts of brewing, and then finally my father, instead of kicking me off of the home because I wasn't studying, he found a great connection with a brewmaster, an Italian guy who studied in Germany.
Ah,
And so I got in touch with this man, Gianni Pasa, a great guy, and he helped me and me and Mario a lot, giving us a lot of tips and uh, giving us the way to source some good malt, some good hop, and some fresh yeast.
yeah.
So we started to brew a beer that was more and more drinkable, at least. And then at the end, probably some of the batches were pretty good. And I was a kind of a strange home brewer because I've been brewing the same recipe for 10 years
Ah,
because I thought if I try to brew the same beer, and of course you never get the same beer, but if I record everything, I write down everything, that way I can learn more.
amazing. Amazing.
So it's a little bit crazy, of course, but from my perspective, it did work. So
Not to interrupt you here for a moment. I just think it's really interesting. I mean, your experience and your timeline does kind of parallel the American craft beer industry. The fact that you discovered home brewing, like in the way we did, reading The Joy of Home Brewing by Charlie Papazian. But what's really even more interesting is the fact that you went straight to trying to malt your own barley, to brewing from barley instead of extract from like a Mr. Beer homebrew kit or something like that that we would have had available in the States at the time. That you went straight to malting your own barley, to all malt beer, to experimenting with hops, to experimenting with yeast that wasn't necessarily like prepackaged or readily available for you, speaks volumes and tells the background of not just your story, but Birrificio Italiano that we know as of today. That's remarkable, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a very bad job as a malter, by the way, but
That you even tried speaks
I realized, I tried. You know what? I realized that it wasn't impossible for me, because can be possible from somebody else, but not for me, to learn at the same time about malting and brewing, because I never knew where the faults were coming from the malt or from brewing approach. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I said, I absolutely have to I need a reliable source of my malts so that I can concentrate myself on brewing.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's to your father for seeing that passion, that potential, that interest, and giving it some concrete, focused direction to the brewmaster you worked with.
He helped me a lot also because he was working in a lab, pharmaceutical research lab on antibiotics. And so he was able to give me some old machinery, like a chiller, but a chiller that was able to keep my beers from -30 to up to 100 Celsius up. So a very, very sophisticated chiller.
Yeah.
And so that's, and a very nice small stainless steel tank. And so this way I had the chance to start brewing lagers and not top fermenting beer, because at that time, the problem was temperature control.
Sure.
So that's why everybody else, and we were probably 10 people in Italy in 1985, but everybody else was using top fermenting yeast, because handling the temperature the right way to brew a good lager was almost impossible. But my father helped me a lot.
Amazing. I am still so impressed by not just craft breweries making the investment in lager brewing today, knowing how difficult it can be for that kind of time, that kind of labor, that kind of love. How home brewers do it at home, in their garage, where have you, is also no small feat. So I want to talk about how you kind of moved from a curious home brewer to, I don't think commercial's the word, but to a larger scale of brewing. You know, I'll tell you what I know about Birrificio Italiano, and maybe you can connect the dots and tell me what we don't know, because the brewery, you've said it was so founded in 1990. Well, I will say I think it's founded in 1994, if not from the moment you were 15 years old, deciding you wanted to be a home brewer. You officially threw the doors open in 1996. That was a great year for beer, as well as music for that matter, in the United States and clearly beyond. So you recently celebrated your 30-year anniversary, very happy anniversary, as a pioneer of Italian craft beer, certified Indipendente Artigianale. Again, forgive the pronunciation, but I think that's the equivalent to craft breweries recognized and supported by the Brewers Association here in the U.S. You founded an alchemic workshop in the spirit of inspiration and exploration and creativity as the first craft brewery in the region of Lombardy. The mission was unfiltered, unpasteurized, uncentrifuged, uninterrupted, and unapologetic beer. That was the original brew pub. You've had a tap room in Milan since 2017, an annual production that you halt at 7,000 hectoliters to keep it true to your roots. And I know that you've also created your own Birrificio Italiano scale to guide drinkers through intensity and impact of the order that they should drink and enjoy your beer. So these are all remarkable feats, and we could talk about anyone in and of themselves. But if that's what I know, tell us a little bit more about what we don't know, how you made the leap from, again, an inquisitive home brewer to more of a commercial, a craft brewery, the first craft brewery in Lombardy, please.
As I told you, I was studying at the University in Milan. I was studying agriculture. So at the end, beer brewing is a kind of a branch of agriculture because you are transforming an agricultural product.
Yes.
So basically, you grow barley or wheat or whatever, and then you get beer at the end. And so I had the chance to choose kind of a course in my studies that was the most interesting one for a guy that had in mind to open his own brew pub. So I studied. I started studying really at the university because before I was a really lazy student, as I told you. And it happened when in 1985 or 6, because probably the same year when I started home brewing, I was traveling to Canada. So I traveled from Ontario to British Columbia and basically hiking. And when I was in British Columbia in Vancouver, I stepped into the Granville Island brewery that is still there. And it was, at that time, was just a brew pub. And I thought, okay, this is what I really want to do in my life. So I started to study more and more seriously because I had a goal in my mind. And I started to accumulate as much know-how of any kind that I was able to, including how to, let's say, create a business plan, how to create a new enterprise in Italy, rules and stuff. And so I was studying 360 degrees all around my plan, and including putting together other business partners. First of all, my brother, and then many others, because at the very beginning we were 11 people. And
Wow.
And then I did a final thesis at the university about beer colloidal stability in a big brewery. Okay, but it was not easy for me because I had to, let's say, bother my professors, many of them, until one of them finally said, "Okay, I found you a good connection to do your final thesis about beer," because nobody was caring about beer at the university in that time. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but I was so pushy and annoying that finally I did it, and I did this this work on a colloidal beer stability with a forced aging test on beers. And then I worked in the beer industry almost for 1 year in a quality control of packaging, of the packaging. And then after a few months, I was traveling. I traveled to Germany and did 2 short stages on 2 brew pubs in Germany, just to learn how to how to design my very small brew house, because I started with own design brew house of 200 liters.
Wow.
So many things, you know.
Yeah,
I was really focused.
it takes, we will say it takes a village. It takes friends and family. Um, again, just trying to draw certain parallels. We have like UC Davis here in California that had a wine program that eventually evolved into a beer program. But at the time you're talking about, 1985, give or take, information was rare and sparse, and it really took people exploring and discovering it on their own. And I think 2 points worth noting. We've said it before and we will say it again on this show, that your roots are in agriculture, that you were studying agriculture. Beer is a living agricultural product, not an industrial product as has been in recent years. It is a living, breathing agricultural expression of the raw ingredients it's made with. The other thing I just think worth noting, that you really explored building just beer and brewing and building a brew pub as a business. Part of the shakeup we're seeing in recent years among breweries in the United States, maybe for a variety of factors, but part of it is people maybe not understanding that it is a business and you need like solid fundamentals to make it thrive as such. So the fact that you took what did you say, 360 degree view and a 365-day commitment to bringing that view to life year over year is, again, just amazing and really inspiring. I love that you also have the experience in Germany. I remember, I feel like when I was seeking out Italian craft beer during my all too brief trip to Italy, German lagers were not uncommon. I feel like everywhere I went, you would find like a German lager on the board. And I also had that epiphany traveling to Germany and Berlin and Munich when I was a teenager. After that, after your apprenticeship in Germany, then you came back to Milan kind of with the tools you needed to open the brew pub that we now know and love? Or were there a few more steps in between?
No, there were no other steps, but my experience in the beer industry in the quality control was really fundamental for me, and I'll tell you why. Because
Please.
I was working in a packaging part of the brewery, and I was doing the quality control, and they brought me into the tasting panel. So we had the chance to taste at least twice per week industrial lagers, quite bad ones, but even some good ones, fresh or not so fresh, and even beyond the expiry date. Of course, blind tasting in a very professional way.
Fun.
So I learned something. I learned that basically the industry most of the time destroy the quality of its own beer in order to have a longer shelf life.
Yeah.
Because we were brewing, for example, Stella Artois there.
Sure.
Okay? And Stella Artois from the tank was good. And even in the bottle before pasteurization and stuff was good. Was good. But after everything and all this kind of treatments, the beer was completely different from the original one. And I didn't like it that much. So I thought, I'm going to establish a brew pub, so I don't need to work on elongating the shelf life. I just want to keep the freshness of my beers. So I will work on the distribution chain, maybe, but not on those kind of treatments that are supposed to turn the beer more stable and more consistent. So this was very mind-forming for me.
That's amazing. I have never had, I've heard similar stories. I've never had the experience of tasting something like Stella Artois, like Bud or Bud Light, like any of these beers directly from a serving tank, directly from a bright tank. I've only ever had it, like you said, after it is packaged, pasteurized, and
Yeah.
distributed far and wide. Um, that could be a revelation. And the fact that, I mean, it told you maybe what you didn't want to do and turned a negative into a positive, being part of that tasting panel and having that experience. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
that's it. That's it. The point is, I always say to many people who, just to help understanding all these kind of things, not
yeah.
for you because you're part of the industry, you know what I'm talking about, but sometimes I say I could brew 3 million hectoliter of Tipopils,
Yes.
exactly like the one I'm brewing now, but it would be impossible to sell this beer for many reasons. But the first reason is you need a very short distribution chain, very quick, and you can do it with 7,000 hectoliters, but not with 3 millions.
Yes.
And the beer would change. And also because Tipopils, like most of our beers, some craft beers as well, are not for everybody.
Sure.
So I could never sell 3 million hectoliters of Tipopils because they not it doesn't meet the taste of the big public, I mean the mainstream.
Yeah.
So
I
this is
get it.
perfect for me.
I get it. Since you mentioned Tipopils, let's talk about that before some of your other beers. Because as a dry hopped lager, yes, the questions around like freshness, distribution, export, like these all really, really come into play. I've had Tipopils in New York City, by the bottle, by the keg, but I would just, you know what? We already cited the mother of Italian Pilsners, claims to be the first dry hopped Pils, and I think you led with that since 1996. It's 5.2% alcohol. Both for myself and for everyone listening, whether they know the story or not, I would just love to know, first of all, what is Italian style Pilsner and what inspired Tipo Pils?
Okay, I'll start from the second question that you posed. So the story of the Tipopils. Tipopils all together with a major letter is the T, and then the rest is regular Tipopils all together, was the first beer that I brewed at the brew pub, professionally brewing. Okay, the first batch was brewed on February 11, and we opened the pub to the public, to the customers, on April 3rd. And it's the only beer that I'm still brewing
Ah,
with among the one that I was brewing the very first years of my activity. So in the same summer of 1996, I traveled to London to attend to the Great British Beer Festival. Because as I told you, even before turning myself into a home brewer, I was a beer enthusiast, and one of my favorite beer was Courage Best Bitter. So I
yes.
had the chance to go to the Great British Beer Festival and had a lot of real ales and see and meet some publicans, those who are handling the cask beers. And I learned from one of them that he was adding a hop plug into the cask before or after venting it, Okay.
Yeah.
And he had a special tap inside the cask just to prevent, with a kind of a filter, just to prevent clogging of the tap.
Mhm.
So he was venting the cask, adding this plug, and after 1 or 2 days, he was pouring the beer. And I thought this is an incredibly interesting idea. I want to
Amazing.
do it at home. But it was easy because my serving tank, it was my maturation tank, and the size was a double batch that meant 400 liters. So
Yeah.
3 barrels. So it was very easy to open it, put hops and stuff. Of course, I was using my hops. So that at that time were only German style or Czech or Slovenian hops, okay? Not
Sure.
the English ones. And not because the hop plugs that they use in England, they are made of cones, okay? I was using pellets from the very beginning.
Hmm.
So I started to do that. And at the very beginning, the Tipopils was double dry hop because I was hanging a bag with pellets in the primary fermentation just to avoid hop to not contaminate, but I had to reuse the yeast. So I didn't want hops to be in my yeast, recovering yeast.
Okay.
And then I was doing the dry hopping during maturation with loose pellets. I started, I didn't like it. And step by step, I learned that that practice was called dry hopping because I didn't know that before. And
Sure.
I learned a lot, especially when I first traveled to the US. It was 2002 in Cleveland for the Craft Brewers Conference because I met American brewers who were already doing dry hopping. And so I learned, for example, that I didn't have to be worried about contamination because usually hop doesn't bring any bacteria. Because until then, I was kind of pasteurizing my hops in a microwave oven because I was worried about the chance to contaminate my beers.
Yes. Interesting.
So I was pasteurizing with a protocol that was like 5 minutes, and 65 Celsius. It was very light pasteurization. But that was another step in my let's say know how about hops, generally speaking.
I say,
So
Agostino, I'm I'm really interested that so here again, yes, British brewing, English ales, also great inspiration for American craft brewers, right? And I'm just really curious how instead of not to interrupt your journey and your story, but I want to know instead of I hear that you were trying to get to the essence of the hop to find greater hop expression in your brewing at the time. Were
yes.
you more focused on brewing like pale ales, IPAs, bitters at this point? And if so, I'm just curious, how did you land on the expression of dry hopping Pilsner? What was the turning point that made you think instead of focusing on hops and ales that you were going to do this in a German style Pilsner? Ultimately
Because
creating the Italian Pilsner for that matter. So,
exactly. The answer is because I had very, very good, quite good hops from Germany, and I was in love with them. And so I said, why not trying to use my favorite hops in my favorite beer? And because when I designed the first recipe of Tipopils, my goal was to replicate a beer that really was kind of enlightening, like mind-blowing for me when I tried it first that it was Jeverpils, a German pils from the north of Germany. And so I was looking for hops, but German hops. I love bitters. I love any kind of beer. Now I have to add something.
Please.
But I thought, let's use my hops in my beer. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And that's the way Italian style pilsners were born. Okay.
That's incredible.
But the other thing I was telling you is that I've always been, let's say, much more in love with hops than with beer. So don't blame me, please, because you are a fan, a great fan and connoisseur of German beers. But
no
I
blame.
I don't drink Helles.
Well, that is a first for No Life Till Lager.
I'm sorry. I have to confess.
There is no blame and no shame. This is a sacred space, my friend. But now I'm even more interested, and it's even more compelling that, again, you landed on the expression of hops and dry hopping Pilsner beer in what originally might have been like a German Pilsner inspired recipe. And of course, Pilsner is much more hoppy than Helles. So I am with you in the sense of it's like a more full expression and experience of beer, and an excellent showcase for hops. And I think a lot of the time people get confused or don't realize how bitter, how hoppy a Pilsner can be by comparison to Helles, or just because Pilsner in recent years, or until now, I think has been so overshadowed by IPA, pale ale, double IPA, triple IPA in the market. But I love that you love your hops and chase those down the rabbit hole. And it's okay that you're not a fan of Helles. So
thank you.
So here again, Tipopils, to me, it sounds like the beer you have essentially been dreaming of and brewing and making ever since you were a 15-year-old home brewer. You've been on that journey. But here again, if that is Tipopils, what was the turning point to the creation of this style of Italian Pilsner?
But the style wasn't born because of me. I just brewed a beer that then was turned into a style. And to be honest, sometimes it's very uncomfortable for me, all this, because my philosophy has always been and still is research, innovation, and no boundaries, and looking for what I like. Beyond styles and traditional beer cultures. So you understand that it's kind of crazy for me that I'm the one who created a new style, because I don't have such a good relationship with styles.
I not only understand and appreciate it's a very American thing, and it's a very human thing to want to categorize and structure, and having something laid out in a way that we can just simply understand and relate to. And there's no fault in that. And sometimes it is necessary to document, to organize. But I hear you, as a brewer, as a human, as an Italian, saying you don't necessarily like to be limited to style. I appreciate the humility, because I wanted to have you on the show for many reasons, not just as an excuse to meet in person, but you are cited as the creator of Italian Pilsner. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about the who, the what, and the why. And So my friend, I've worked for many different breweries so far over many different years and many different lives. It's always been in a sales or marketing capacity, and I cannot tell you how many times we've sat in a meeting and people have tried to unveil the origin and the secret behind Italian Pilsner, behind dry hopped Pilsner. It's often cited as a revelation that Pils from your friends
Oh,
and
yes,
collaborators at Firestone Walker is what we would call an Italian style Pilsner
it
because it is a
is.
dry hopped Pilsner. Not limiting you in any respect, but with regards to Tipopils, with regards to Italian Pilsner, and then we will move on, would you say there is any other defining characteristic beside the fact that it is dry hopped?
Okay, just let me add something about beer styles. I've
Everything,
been
please.
I've been judging at the World Beer Cup. I've been judging at the European Beer Star, so I learn styles, and I'm also the one who founded the tasting classes in Italy
Mm,
in the early 2000, together with the Association of the Craft Brewers. So I studied the styles, but then I did my best to forget about them. And this in my from my perspective is very different than ignoring the styles. But
yes,
this is my story, and of course, it's only my own.
yes,
But I'm still enthusiastic about beer brewing because I still feel free
yes,
to brew what fits to my own taste. But nowadays, it's not only mine. We are tasting 4 or 5 people together, so we discuss about our beers, and so. But it's something that it really matters to me that we are looking for the things that we like, and in this sense, let's add something that you American knows very well. When we started brewing, we had no Italian beer culture, not at all.
I was going to ask a little bit about the context and the history of Italian craft beer culture and the atmosphere in which Birrificio Italiano was founded. So is that the case? Like when you were kind of embarking on this journey, there really wasn't, call it what you will, craft beer microbrewery. There really wasn't an established industry or subculture in Italy at the time.
Zero,
Yeah.
just zero, including home brewing. As I told you, along the year, I could have been able to kind of reconstruct the story of home brewing together with other friends.
Yeah.
And we probably, a few of us, started in the mid 80s,
Sure.
before not even home brewing was around. So no Italian beer culture, except a few specialty beers brewed by uh, industrial breweries, but they were very difficult to find, and so we didn't have any our own culture, beer culture. So we were studying and drinking other countries' beer culture.
Mhm.
But we called our brewery Birrificio Italiano. Italiano is because I already knew that what we were going to do was researching our own taste. And if there's something I'm really proud about being Italian is the capacity that we have, since we are that big, to understand about taste and food. And on Sunday on Sunday lunch, mother and grandmother and uncle are arguing about the right tomato sauce or the right way to cook spaghetti. So as you know, when we are eating, we are talking about food.
Yes.
And so I knew that this experience, this our own taste culture could have been of help to me developing my own beers. That's why I called it Italiano. And
Yeah.
to tell you something more that you won't like, probably.
Please. Bring it.
when we opened our brew pub, we had a flyer, and the advertisement was no wurst and no fries here.
Oh, I see.
because we wanted to investigate the pairing of our beers with Italian style food.
Yes.
And we were not rejecting, because I do like it a lot, but we were trying to go beyond the very well-known kind of stereotype culture of Wurst, Krautwurst, and beer.
Yes.
Just to add something more, not to reject it because I like it a lot.
I appreciate and agree that, yes, maybe a beer doesn't always have to be enjoyed with a sausage or a bratwurst or a burger or a side of fries. And in the long run, I don't want to say that's necessarily hurt beer culture, because there's a convivial conversation around whatever you're eating and drinking, so long as it's bringing people together, right? But the Italian people and the country and culture, I think, is one that the world, I certainly do, but one that the world looks to for taste, for food, for drink, for style, for the sake of living and expressing yourself in life. And the fact that you named your brewery in that spirit and homage to the country, to your family, is very fitting. So that you don't drink Helles and that you don't always want to drink a beer with a brat or a side of fries is to your credit, Agostino. No shame, no secret, and nothing to hide or disagree with here.
Thank you.
And there is one other parallel I want to draw here. It does also keep coming up, and I want to talk about more of your beers than Tipo, and we won't kind of hang on the Italian Pilsner style any further. But everything you described about learning the fundamentals and forgiving them, it also reminds me just this idea of brewers as artists, as brewing beer as a creative expression. It reminds me of musicians who talk about learning and mastering notes and scales, and then being able to forget them, and only at that point are they free to create. So to ask people to explain further beyond that, I think, is just kind of fruitless and kind of pointless. So I agree, with all of this. It's not that you just don't like it. It's that you just don't necessarily want to be constrained by it. And I think that is what has led to the idea of Italian-style Pilsner, and to Tipopils just being recognized internationally, world over, as a very special and unique beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. You say the right words.
Well, I hope so.
Yes.
We are all friends here, and I want to talk about some other friends and family that you offer. I think mostly year-round, maybe some seasonals, but the Delia Session Pils that you were drinking, I believe, is year-round at 4.3%. You make an extra hop DDH, double dry hop Pilsner at 4.8, a wet hop Tipopils during harvest season at 5.2. That must be a revelation.
Good.
Negredo dark hoppy lager at 6.5%. Let's come back to this after I finish, just because I believe this is with partly roasted hops, which is fascinating. That I would travel to Milan alone for. There's Huxley Cold IPA at 5.7, and shout out to, of course, Aldous Huxley, inspired by the Doors of Perception. I love it.
Exactly. Aldous Huxley.
Yes. Bibock, we won't call it a Bock, but a Bock-inspired beer at 6.2, an amber lager, amber shock at 7%. Sono Lucido double Pils at 7.5%. And then just to round all of this out, You have a mixed fermentation barrel aging program for beer and wine hybrids called Clan Barrique. And you also dabble in spirits as Birrificio Italiano spirits with your own line I think I have seen the gin at some point in all my travels, but a wide variety of spirits and different colors and expressions of the rainbow. So this is a very full and diverse portfolio of beverages and offerings. I think I would just love to know, first of all, I do want to talk about the partly roasted hops in your dark lager, but just a little bit about how did these beers find their way into production year round or seasonally for you? What kind of determines what you continue brewing at Birrificio Italiano? And then the further journey into mixed fermentation ales and spirits. Whatever you want to volunteer, please.
Okay. Well, talking about Nigredo, that it's our dark lager, and hop roasting.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately, this is not a year-round production anymore, because I don't know what happens in the US, but in Italy, selling dark beers is very difficult.
Similar.
So we had to, instead of having Nigredo always available together with Voodoo, that it's a Dunkelweizen. Because 6 years ago we had these two dark beers, a dark Weizen and our dark lager. But then we decided to have a rotating dark beer. So unfortunately, Nigredo is not always available.
Okay.
By the way, Nigredo is probably, technically speaking, my favorite beer of us, and not necessarily because of the roasted hops, but I think the roasted hops are exactly what you like. We were talking about the black peppercorn.
Yes.
The same thing. There's
I see.
something special, like a nuance, something that if you wouldn't have it, would turn the beer into something completely different, but you cannot necessarily pick it.
Fascinating. Really compelling.
That beer was born, and this is an interesting story, but please tell me when I have to be more to concentrate. But
no need to be more concise. No need to rush.
Concise, exactly. So
whatever you want to say about these beers, please.
Yeah, the roasted hop is fun because as I told you at the very beginning, I was pasteurizing the hops that we were using for dry hopping. It was just low temperature for 5 minutes or so, and we were heating the hops into a microwave oven. I know it's not really romantic, but it works. And this is the way I am. Now, sometimes I'm also romantic, but if it works for me, it's okay. So, but at a certain point, I was passing by the kitchen of the brew pub, and one of my colleagues, he was roasting the hops, but he forgot to check the time. Not roasting, sorry, pasteurizing the hops. He forgot to check at the time, so they turned into roasted hops. And I was passing by and I smelled this amazing smell. And I thought, this is incredible. I love it. It brought me back to my first beer. That it was not really a beer, but when I was less than 10 years old, together with a Dutch friend that was living in Italy close by to me, we decided to make our own beer and wine. So the beer was some wild hop, put it into a very small pot with water. And that was beer for us. And of course, wine was some grapes smashed into a small pot and let it and let ferment. So
Yes.
that first beer, that was not a beer, of course. I'm sorry, that's okay. I did find the same smell experience of that beer in the roasted hops. Don't ask me why, because
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a alignment again, and I said, "This is that smell exactly." So I thought, sooner or later, I want to use this practice of roasting hops, and I did it much later because I created Nigredo in 2014, I think.
Hmm.
And when I was designing it, I started to do some trials about hop roasting, and I ended up roasting pellets of Aurora Supersterian, that is a Slovenian hop.
Nice.
And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Again, amazing. I've learned to appreciate and try to remember these moments. The sight, the sound, the smell, the taste that connects us from our present to our past. It's amazing how food and drink can do that. I don't know if anything can do it as effectively. Um, I do want to ask, and I think this is important because so many of the beers we just mentioned, you're clearly in love with hops. A lot of them emphasize hop character, hop quality, hop flavor, hop aroma. Can you tell me a little bit more? Just your freshness kind of policy and standards for distribution throughout Italy or further for export to other countries or to the United States. I know I believe your beers are stamped with both essentially a born on and a best by date, which I appreciate. I can't stand when there is a born on date without a best by date or vice versa, honestly. But the worst is when it's just completely incognito. So understanding when this beer is brewed, I think, is probably the most important. But then also the further gesture of when we think it should be enjoyed by, when it will still be the beer we intended, is I just think a further, not just gesture to the consumer, but a protection for both quality control from the brewery as well as to the consumer on the receiving end. So just tell us your policy, as simple as kind of when you're brewing hoppy beers, dry hopped beers, it can be as simple as like, how many months do you think this beer has life? How far do you distribute and export? Like I said, I know I've seen Tipopils in New York and the US, bottles, kegs. I'm curious if you ever can beers. Let me know that. And then just what is your policy for freshness, quality, and date coding, what you send out to the market?
Okay, I think the first step is knowing distributors or importers
Yeah.
and be sure that they agree on my freshness policy. And at the same time, it's very important to travel to those countries. I'm talking about export now, but
Yeah.
it is the same thing for Italy. So I've selected my distributors in Italy as our importers abroad this way, knowing
Yes.
that they understand what the fresh beer is compared with the stale one, oxidized one, and be able to verify inside, that the beers are good.
Yeah.
And so this is what I'm doing. I give 4.5 to 6 months shelf life,
Okay.
except those beer, like you mentioned before, that are coming from our barrel project, because those beers, of course, it's a completely different story.
Yes.
So I sell those beers most of the time 2 or 3 years after they've been brewed.
Okay.
So, of course, it's a completely different approach, but those are not beers that you're enjoying with your friends,
Yes.
watching the football match and talking about your life and your next vacation plans or You know what I mean? But yeah,
Absolutely.
4.5 to 6 months.
Four and
And
a half to
then
6 months.
of cold shipping and cold storage
Yes. Vital. That's
at,
very
at
important.
the distributor.
Yeah. Yes.
And so there are different ways. We export to the US through cold refrigerated referas called refrigerated. I
I
don't
know
know.
exactly. I
Okay,
know it's a cold chain distribution. Like I know exactly what you're going
okay,
for. Just trying to safeguard that the beer is kept cold from the moment it leaves your brewery
yes,
to the
yes,
distributor to the retailer.
yes.
I know the retailer is ultimately maybe the hardest to control once it's purchased and dropped on site in the bar,
Exactly.
in the
But
bottle shop, whatever
usually,
it is.
usually the retailers, they don't ask huge amounts of kegs and of beers because
Yeah,
they don't want to have a very expensive warehouse. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
warehousing costs. So they keep the beers the shortest time
yeah.
possible because they won't have to have this very expensive warehousing. So the biggest problem is shipping and distributor or importer warehousing. So now I don't want to do any advertisement here, but I'm very happy and I'm very lucky because I found these people of Be United, based in Connecticut, and
Yes.
they also own a brewery, and the founder and owner Matthias Nieder, that's a German
Ah,
man, and I think he was born and grown for several years in Germany, and he's absolutely crazy for freshness and
excellent.
quality. And
Yeah.
so I'm very happy. And so in the summertime, in the very summertime, we stopped shipping because it's too risky. Even if you're
Oh, sure.
shipping in a cold refrigerated container,
Yeah.
the risk is too high because I placed some recording temperature recording devices,
Oh, nice.
and then we shared the results, and we have seen that during the summertime we were risking something, so
Yeah.
we canceled shipping during the summertime.
That is a nice touch, and I hear everything you're saying. Typically 4 to 6 months on average shelf life, safeguarded through cold supply chain distribution. Shout out to Be United. I've never visited the brewery, but I know they have one of the most diverse, eclectic, interesting, and highest quality portfolios on the planet. And then I am just curious, always bottles and kegs? Do you can your beers at all? Is there any logic behind that? Tell us, please.
Okay, we don't do cans, but years ago, Be United, our importer in the US, was doing
Yes.
cans because
Yes.
until 2019 we could ship the Tipopils in bulk containers, refrigerated bulk containers. Let's see, a tank that was sailing from Italy to the US eastern coast at 2 Celsius. So basically, we were doing maturation step while crossing the ocean.
Wow. Yes.
And so the beer got there, and Matthias and his son, they were transferring my beer into a vertical tank of their own brewery and then adding the hops that I was shipping together with the beer.
Amazing.
So they were doing dry hopping there and then filling kegs and filling cans.
Yeah.
And that was a dream for me. It was perfect. It was
That's
perfect.
incredible.
But then the very smart Italian uh, government, of those of the let's say customs. They introduced new laws in Italy concerning the craft beers, so we haven't been allowed anymore to do that.
I
So
see.
now we are shipping stainless steel kegs and our own bottles. Okay. So just to say, I have nothing to complain about cans, but we are not filling cans in Italy because basically the main reason is that I'm a stupid, snobbish man. I confess.
You like your beer. You like your beer in bottles. Nothing stupid or snobbish about that. And
I love cans. I love cans,
Yeah.
and I recognize 100% that for many reasons they are better than bottles.
Fair, yeah.
But the point is, I don't want to switch from bottles to cans, but at the same time, I don't have space and room enough to have a canning plant.
Yeah.
So I cannot do both. And I'm working on a very light lager that probably will go into cans because we have a good guy that I already work with who has a track on with a complete can filling line on it, and he can come to us and have the beer can. So maybe in the future we'll do cans for a new beer, a light beer, something that you really like to bring up on your hiking or at the beach, some more sporty and less alcoholic beer, okay?
Yeah.
Like 3.5.
Really exciting. That is a lot to look forward to. And my biggest takeaway is just we need good partners in this business, distributors, importers. They are essential to product integrity and kind of the unseen, sometimes hero, sometimes not, but an unseen kind of major player and force behind the scenes that can protect quality control. And I am glad you found good partners. And of course, grateful that your beer can reach as far as the United States via Be United. Here we go. Speaking of the U.S., there is one more question I wanted to ask you before we move on to a few just kind of rapid fire. I have a few questions at the end of every episode I like to ask everyone. So we will move to that shortly. But one last question before we do. Talking about some festivals and events at Birrificio Italiano and collaborations. I know you have the Birrificio Italiano festival in June, I believe, every year, as well as a Tipopils day in March. And maybe the day varies a little bit depending on where it's happening, whether it's the United States or Italy or anywhere in between. For your festival this year, there was a 6-brewery, 6-country collab, which included our own Firestone Walker. It was a Sariso Brut Lager, if I'm saying that close to correct, 5.7% ABV. But I know you collaborate with breweries regularly all over the world. You often attend the Firestone Walker Invitational Beer Fest, the Mikkeller Beer Celebration. So there's not exactly a question of all this so much as maybe just tell us a little bit about the Birrificio Italiano Festival. Tell us a little bit about Tipopils Day, what goes into organizing, planning, and executing these. And then who do you decide how you want to collaborate with who when, whether it's Firestone Walker or anyone else? Please.
Okay, so our festival this year was to celebrate our 13th anniversary. So it was a special festival. It was bigger
Happy
than
anniversary.
usual.
30 years, my friend. Cheers.
Cheers. Unfortunately, my glass is empty.
If you need another, don't let me stop you.
Okay. By the way, this was a very special edition, bigger than usual, and maybe next year we'll do it. We are going to do it again, but until
Fantastic.
now our festival, it was a Pilsner festival called Pils Pride.
Yes.
Okay. Pils Pride, I started to do the Pils Pride 20 years ago. And the meaning, the reason why it's called Pils Pride, it's because 20 years ago in Italy, all the beer connoisseur, the beer taster, they were only drinking fancy beers, like strong in alcohol, bottle re-fermented, bottle conditioned with fancy raw materials like chestnut
Yes.
or or any kind of stuff, But
Yeah.
in my opinion, craft beer has always been have always been also a very drinkable and easy beer, full of
Very much
character,
agree.
but at the same time easy.
Yeah.
So I invented this festival and I created a protected environment for those who were enjoying normal beers, especially lagers, hoppy lagers.
I love it.
So I told the people, you can come to the Pils Pride and drink your Pilsner without any shame. Because we are all together, we all love the Pilsners. So that's why I called it Pils Pride. And you probably know that in 2017, the Tim and Greg of Oxbow Brewing in Maine, we had this idea of doing the Pils Pride in the U.S.
Yeah.
So the name turned into Pils and Love for
Pils
kind
and
of
Love.
cultural reasons, but it was a blast. It was one of the best festivals I've ever been to. On the ocean side in Portland, Maine, close to the pier. Good cheeses. 65 different Pilsner coming from the U.S. and Italy. So, by the way,
Yeah.
Pils Pride, Pils and Love, and now it will turn probably into a bigger festival where Pils Pride will be only a corner.
And that's what you did this year, correct? Pils
Exactly.
Pride was kind of its
Exactly.
own designated area.
Exactly.
It's so good to know the origin story and the history behind both the Birrificio Italiano festival, your own festival, and how that further evolved and inspired Pils. So here's to 20 plus years of Pils Pride. I think you've been showing Pils Pride since you began as a home brewer at 15. But here's to Pils Pride, to Birrificio Italiano's kind of home festival, and how it all evolved into Pils and Love in the States. And of course, shout out to Oxbow. We recently had
Firestone Walker,
to Firestone Walker. To all of these, we recently had Jack, the quality manager at Von Trapp, on an episode, and his roots were at Oxbow. So again, small world, and I love to see the love for Pilsner. That's fantastic. So to your own festival, to Tipopils Day, and to all your collaborations. Please.
Tipopils Day is one day in a year where we brew two different twists of the Tipopils.
Yeah.
And we ship them to our customers. And at the same time, local time, of course, in the same day, everybody is supposed to plug a keg or a gravity cask of our beers. Okay? And we are celebrating the Tipopils Day with different kind of Tipopils. Again, because I don't want Tipopils to be like something too rigid. I want to play around it. I still have fun playing around the original recipe, and so we have a lot of fun brewing these two different twists of the Tipopils, and people like it. And so it's a very successful day, and it's taking place from US to many countries in Europe, and even in China. And so it's an amazing day, and that's it. That's the Tipopils Day.
Well, happy Tipopils Day. I look forward to celebrating with you for the years ahead and many years to come. And a little bit about just your collaborations with Firestone Walker and beyond. Festivals you attend, like the Firestone Invitational, like McKellar Beer Celebration. Just, who do you decide how do you decide who do you want to collaborate and when and how? How do these evolve? Are these all just friends and family at this point?
It's, well, let me say something more about Matthew Brindleson and Firestone Walker, because I have to kind of pay credits to Matt, because he brewed Tipopils inspired by the Tipopils, but he brewed a beer that is different from Tipopils, but very good as well. He really named the origin of his Tipopils, writing about Tipopils, writing about the Birrificio Italiano, Agostino. And so he was very, very professional, very kind and very friendly, and a man that I really respect. Not only the brewer, because he's one of the best brewers I know, for sure, but I respect the man because he did a great job. He did things like they are supposed to be done the right way. So, and then Firestone Walker Invitational is probably my favorite festival, and traveling to California every year for me is a kind of a ritual thing. I love it. And then MBCC, yes, it's a great festival. It's the biggest, more interesting festival in Europe. But I feel more at home in Paso Robles than in Copenhagen at the MBCC. But I love that festival as well. Then collab. Honestly, it's a matter of friendship. It's a matter of the way people ask me to do a collab. Because sometimes I just read an email and I say, I like this guy. Maybe I never met him or her, but I like the way he asked or she asked. And so sometimes it's like this. Sometimes when I organize a collaboration like the one you mentioned before with Firestone Walker, Verdun, Brasserie de la Seine, Schönramer, and Bad Seed, I choose among my friends and among the best brewers that I know. So every time there are different, then maybe sometimes there are kind of commercial reasons as well. I can tell you easily. Sometimes it's something like this too, but I always want some kind of good feeling, good vibes with the people. And I love traveling, so I confess I love doing collab, even because I'm traveling a lot and seeing new people and new countries. Last time I was in England, and we did a collab with Beak Brewing, that is south of London, north of Brighton, northeast of Brighton, and we met at the brewery. We had a couple of beers, and then we did a 1.5 hour walk, but even more, on the English hills to reach a country pub.
Fun.
More than fun. This is absolutely, it's poetry.
Yeah.
When you put together to things like the nature and the environment and walking. I love hiking, together with good beers and this special atmosphere of the English country pubs.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I,
Just an
you're,
example, because I had many amazing experience like this.
yeah. No, you're right to say a good collaboration should be, yes, among friends, yes, inspiring, but yes, even poetry leading to like new experiences that inform the collaboration that you've clearly never forgotten. That's magic. And I didn't think about this, but it's worth kind of. I'm glad it comes full circle back to Firestone and Matt Brynildson. Also, shout out to Sam Tierney at the Propagator, their brew pub in Venice, California. Just because you're right to say that they did help introduce this idea of either Italian style Pilsner or just dry hopped pills
Yes.
to an American audience, and that they did it the right way, like thoughtfully and concise. And with credit to you, it really did kind of expand and build upon this idea for a new audience in the US. So here's to, like I said, friends and family and good partners and good collaborators. I love
Yes.
it.
I'm very grateful. And also let me name another man from the US that I really love, and it's a great friend and a great man and a brewer, and that is Charlie Papazian,
Yes.
because I attended in 1999 to a beer tasting of Charlie in Italy, and he opened my horizon, made it much wider,
Yeah.
because I didn't know that there was so strange things called beer, like those that he brought from the US, and one was brewed in his hotel room. He was a South Africa preparate, like you buy the can with the kind of a powder, and then you add water and you cook it a little bit, and it start fermenting. And he brought that stuff too, made of sorghum malt. So I thought, my gosh, I can have a lot of fun, even much more than I expected.
Yes. No, to Charlie Papazian. I mean, and here again, I never really set out to be a brewer or to open a brewery, but the joy of home brewing, kind of the example and the inspiration from Charlie Papazian also set me on this path. So whatever its expression may be, brewing or not, he's been a huge figure, not just in the American craft beer industry, but clearly abroad. So to you, Charlie, to the complete joy of home brewing.
He brought his own imperial stout with raspberries in 1999, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Agostino, so on that note, you shared so much with us, and I'm so grateful for it. There's a few questions. These can be a word or a sentence, and I just like to ask everyone at the end of every episode, so we can say that we've known our brewer, so we know our brewery, so we know whose house we're in. I would like to know about brew house music. What do you and your team like to listen to while you're brewing?
I would say that the point is that we are always arguing and fighting about the music.
That is yes, that is the music.
because my business partner and the head brewer, the one who is in charge of the daily operation and is controlling everything, he also pretends to control the music. But when I'm brewing, I'm always a little bit annoying, because I always try to change the music, because I don't like his music, I like my own. And so we are always discussing and arguing about the music. But folk rock, and some Italian pop music.
Nice.
That's what our brews are listening to.
Yeah. Arguments about music are never true arguments. It's all in good fun and good faith. So I hope everyone gets a little bit of folk or funk and pop and rock and all the above. That's excellent. Non-alcoholic beer, there has been a rise in the States, both in terms of just availability, of quantity, of quality, and just the volume and the dialogue around it is now you'll see it more than ever in terms of brewery offering it, bars and restaurants offering it. Just I'm curious, the state of non-alcoholic beer in Italy, is it a part of your culture? Do you offer it as an option at Birrificio Italiano?
We do offer non-alcoholic beers in our pubs. We have two pubs. One is the original one, and the other one is in Milano, close to the Centro Station, train station. We offer non-alcoholic beer, but not brewed by us. Selected from other craft brewers that are brewing a non-alcoholic beer. Honestly, but you probably can imagine that I'm not... I don't have such good feeling about non-alcoholic beers, because you need to do some special treatment to the beer to have it non-alcoholic. But I'm one who's not using hop extract, not using antioxidant, not using enzymes, not using clarifying agents, not using centrifuge. I'm using tap water. So this non-alcoholic process is really far from my own culture.
Yeah,
let's call it culture. And I don't drink it. That's the very important point. I don't drink it. Yeah. I don't want to drink alcohol. I usually drink kombucha.
Yes. Always an alternative.
My favorite non-alcoholic beverage. And also we are brewing already at the top of our capacity. So hopefully we don't have to do this to add anything to keep the pace and stay healthy as a company. You know what I mean? So at the moment, we don't have to add a non-alcoholic beer. If in the future, nobody will drink anymore our alcoholic beers, maybe we will look for our way to brew a non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It is an excellent answer and just really kind of interesting. It's different from what I've heard so far. It's just to say it's not, yes, it's not part of your culture personally, but also that it's not part of your process. So if the emphasis remains on we will say uninterrupted beer, unpasteurized beer, unfiltered beer, uncentrifuged beer with as little impact and intervention as possible. It might have been Geisthaus that brought up an interesting point about we think of beer as there's a certain element of nature in beer. It is a natural product. It is an agricultural expression, right? So when you go in and basically distill it to remove the alcohol, that's pasteurization essentially, right? Or if you find a way to filter out the alcohol, it's an added step that some would argue kind of creates something else or creates something artificial. So I hear and understand what you're saying, and it's really interesting and it's really compelling. Last but not least, people either love or hate this question, and it could be its entire episode. But in a word and in a sentence, decoction mashing, yes or no? And why or why not, my friend? Is Birrificio Italiano built for it? Are any of your beers brewed by decoction brewing method? Yes or no? Why or why not?
Okay, some of our beers, there's only one right now that we're brewing with decoction mash. Our brew house is designed to do that. And then there's our second best-selling beer. It's called Bibock. That used to be, when it was born, it used to be a decoction,
Okay.
but then I switched along the years to infusion, multi-step infusion. But I think infusion is easier. I don't necessarily like the multi-character coming from the decoction.
Mhm.
So boiling a mash sometimes to me gives back some heavy notes. Okay, sometimes it's amazing and very good. So I'm sorry, but I won't say yes or no. I will answer. I'm not doing it anymore, except for our extra op that we brew twice a year.
Interesting. A fair answer to a frustrating question. And it's very rare that anyone decidedly lands on yes or no. It is typically somewhere in between. So know that you are in
Yes.
keeping and good company with other episodes to date, Agostino. And this is it. As we begin to wrap up, I just want to know anything else you have to say to beer drinkers out there, American, Italian, and otherwise, anyone who is considering their first beer, at 21 here in the States, but I want to say it's 18 in Italy. Is that correct?
It in what? Sorry.
It's what's the drinking age in Italy?
Oh yeah,
Is it
yes.
it's 18.
18 right now. It used to
Yeah.
be 16 for beer, but as I told you, but I shouldn't, but I did it already. I started drinking when I was 15 because there were some publicum that were, just saying, okay, not every time, but sometimes they were giving us beer. So, the legal age
Yes.
right now is 18.
Well, to all the beer drinkers out there, to anyone who's considering their first beer at any age, to anyone who's pondering their last beer at any age, just what do you have to say? What from Birrificio Italiano, what beer would you recommend to start and finish according to your own BI scale, and why, my friend? Closing words for beer drinkers out there, please.
So, I would start talking about my beers. I would definitely start with Delia in the summertime. No way, because it's very refreshing for character with a lot of hop character. And then I would finish with Amber Shock.
Nice.
Amber Shock. But maybe as an aperitivo before Delia, I would open a magnum bottle of our Polacca Rouge that is a bottle re-fermented sour Grodzisky with raspberries. Because of the show, because we opened with a sword, I don't know how you say, and because it's light in alcohol and then good. I mean, it's really amazing. So Polacca Rouge, then Delia, switching to the more serious stuff, and then ending with Amber Shock that basically comes as a recipe from the beer that I was brewing when I was home brewing.
Agostino, I love here again thinking kind of outside the box or coloring outside the lines. Let's not talk about first and last beer. Let's talk about the aperitivo or even the digestif and the show and the spectacle around it. So very fitting closing remarks, my friend. I am going to say thank you so very much to Agostino Arioli. Thank you, Birrificio Italiano. Thank you to Moonlight Brewing for supplying the beer from my side. If you like what you're hearing, by all means, like, follow, and subscribe to No Life Till Lager. Join us on this journey. Help us make a better kind of beer show. Help us join Agostino at the next Birrificio Italiano Festival or for the next Tipopils Day. And as we get to where we are going, I will say good night and good lager with my very last drop of Sulla Luna, my friends.
Okay.
Ago,
Thank you
cheers.
very much.